Welcome back to another episode of Have You Heard? Today I'm joined by Lucy, our brand new influencer marketing director.
Wow.
Well, not brand new in some degree. Obviously from a senior influencer manager with us at the Social Shepherds, but recently promoted.
Wow.
And also we're in our new podcast studio, which is our first time shooting in this room. It's 99% done. So a few more additions that you'll see in videos very, very soon. But yeah, excited for that and excited to be in the room with here instead of the old studio.
Yeah, definitely.
Today, we're going to obviously be talking about influencer. Because like, what else would we be talking about with you? And I guess what I wanted to sort of discuss with you is like, how can influencers get noticed by brands? It's probably like the number one choice of like career if someone's in school going, what do you want to be when you're older? Influencer.
I know.
But it's like, how can someone actually be noticed by brands? You know, you spend all this time creating content, trying to build a following, but then your maybe inbox is empty.
Yeah.
And you're like, when a brand's going to reach out to me,
Yeah,
what am I doing wrong? What are some of the, simple things that people often forget about when trying to attract those brands?
Well, I've got my trusty notes here. So I think they're quite simple things you can do. And it's a little bit like SEO basics that you can really do as well. Because for us, when we're trying to find influencers or content creators for our clients, we use different tools and everything. So we've got like a general kind of influencer search tool that we use. We use kind of creator marketplaces like TikTok Creator Marketplace, which help. But for those things to work, or how kind of those tools work essentially, is it's really crawling the account and the content. And so there's simple things you can do, like making sure your bio has keywords included in it. So if you want to be a travel influencer, for example, make it clear what your page is about. Often a lot of influencers, they'll just kind of have very vague descriptions or completely unrelated bios that relate to kind of what they offer. And that can work to a certain degree, or maybe when you're a bit more established. But if you really want to get noticed, having things like, say you want to be a luxury travel influencer, have that in your bio and mention that in your content. Use relevant hashtags as well within all your content, because those are the things that we'll do to try and find you in our kind of like discovery period. So you yourself might have to go out and do a bit of like keyword research and everything, just like we're doing a bit of keyword research to find the relevant creators and everything. So I would definitely kind of recommend that.
It's almost like reverse engineering, like how is a brand
going to find me?
How are they trying to find them? They don't have the list of every luxury travel influencer just available to them. They need to go out and do this search themselves.
And like the whole kind of influencer discovery or creator discovery side of things is always an ongoing thing. I mean, we as a team, we've got our own kind of mini database almost of like, as and when we kind of come across people, we just stick them in this kind of database, so that when we can kind of, are looking for relevant influencers, there's also that that document as such that we can refer back to try and kind of find relevant people. Even things like your account name, so not necessarily your handle, things like that. You can even mention that you are kind of a UGC creator, or you are a lifestyle and fashion creator, or whatever it might be. Like, those are simple things that you can do to really kind of get noticed by brands. And then I think as well, kind of an important one is just ensuring that you are creating relevant content. And that can be a tricky one, because I guess like content styles and trends like change all the time and everything. But yeah, again, if you want to be a travel content creator or a travel influencer, you need to ensure that the content you're creating is in line with that. And, you're also looking at, the style of your content and, whether you're, getting involved in relevant content trends and things like that as well. Even things like on TikTok or Reels, for example, if you're using relevant trending sounds as well, like those are things that we'll start to look at to try and find relevant content,
Yeah.
or try and find relevant influencers and everything as well.
Because it helps you like be known for something as
Yeah.
well, and like help you actually establish your own sort of like, how do people perceive you, and
Yeah, exactly.
like a brand should do themselves, stand for something, be known for something.
Yeah,
And you'll attract the right people.
precisely.
You might put some people off in some brands, but they weren't right for you anyway.
Yeah, precisely. And as well, kind of a lot of our clients will come to us with like really clear objectives of, we want to do something that's going to drive engagement, or we want to do something that's going to drive reach. So we will look at, what are kind of trending styles of content at the moment, or what are like trending sounds as well, to find people who are getting content that's reaching a high volume of users. So getting involved in those kinds of things as well is like definitely, really relevant. And as well, kind of like very simple things like use text overlays in your content, but creating your content natively in app is often really recommended as well. Like that's how the platforms, they're going to optimize your content performance if it's all kind of created within the app as opposed to kind of externally on like a particular video editing software and everything. But even kind of using text overlays and applying them in the app, as opposed to kind of, sometimes we'll either receive content or we'll see content where people are using these like fancy kind of font styles and everything, but like the platform can't read it. So things like that, like they're quite boring things if I'm quite honest, but like they're very simple things that you can do that can completely like transform your reach and kind of awareness amongst brands and everything who are trying to find those kind of influencers and everything.
And then I guess if influencers, they've done all this, and maybe they're sitting on their hands, they're getting antsy, they're like, I want to work with some brands, over the next month, and trying to push that as maybe their career. What advice would you be giving to them to like try and start those conversations, and would they be doing any outreach or anything like that? Would you recommend?
Yeah, I think there's still no harm in just reaching out to the brands that you want to work with, whether that's sliding into their DMs or sending them an email, reaching out to their PR teams, whatever. There's specific inboxes out there for a lot of brands that are just for kind of influencers and creators to reach out to them for opportunities. And that's certainly kind of one way of getting noticed. So I definitely kind of would recommend that. And, even tagging them in your content where appropriate, like don't do it in a spammy way because that's really off-putting. But, when we work with like our organic social teams, for example, they're constantly checking like who's tagging them in their content, and they're doing kind of community engagement and everything. And we'll often get messages of like this particular influencer or this particular content creator, they've been like tagging us quite a bit over the last few months, and actually their content's really nice, and they'll send them over to us because they think they might be kind of worth collaborating with. So things like that are definitely something that you can be doing. So just putting yourself out there. And I think as well, kind of another thing that will really impress brands is if you almost sell yourself in. So come with, relevant content examples. Maybe you've done previous brand collaborations, or maybe you haven't, but you've got examples of content that you think could work really nicely for said brand, because you never know, like they could be reaching out to a bunch of different influencers at that particular time for a campaign or any other kind of opportunity, and you reaching out to them, it might kind of fall on, people might just completely ignore it, or might just be, irrelevant at the time, unfortunately. But there are chances at the same time that this is the perfect timing, and hey, you've come along, and because you've been able to provide great examples of content that you've created, or because even better if you're able to provide stats of like how your content has performed. And that's another thing, like it's worth taking a bit of time to get to know your data, which can seem a bit intimidating, I'm sure, like particularly if you're kind of starting out, but get to understand how industry standard ways of measuring engagement rate, for example. Like, don't tell us your engagement rate is 20% when you've just picked the very best performing piece of content. Like, take it as like an account average, or use kind of, the last month's worth of data and say, this is my current engagement rate or something, to try and sell yourselves in.
Or something like that.
Exactly, because otherwise, we also know how to suss out like if someone is maybe overinflating their stats, for example. Again, a lot of the tools that we use will tell us kind of actually what average reach or views or whatever it might be kind of on your account. So, if you're coming to us and you're being honest, you're being enthusiastic, and again, you've got really great examples of ways that you think could work for that brand, amazing. And we're probably going to take a bit more notice and everything as well.
But I think one of the points I really loved what you just made there is, are they actually doing, influencer partnerships now? Like for us as a social agency, we wouldn't outreach to a business that only does like offline marketing and trying to sell them, so they're not sold on social. Whereas if they're working regularly with loads of creators, influencers of all sizes, they run regular campaigns, the appetite's there.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're sort of actively looking, they'll have someone or an agency that are managing that process through, and
precisely
that's a great time to
exactly, like actually look into the brands. Like don't just kind of go, okay, there's this particular brand, I really like them, I'd love to work with them, just straight away kind of reach out to them. Like you do have to take a bit of time to kind of, you've got to put in the time and effort to like reap the rewards essentially.
And the shift is in influencers very much gone that authentic route as well. Brands only want to work with people that genuinely use or like that product
precisely
already. So if you can demonstrate that as well, that's just a huge tick, because otherwise it's very see-through, and they'll see
for sure
that you've just copy pasted a message and maybe just altered the name of a brand.
I know there's definitely been messages we've seen before from influencers who've reached out, and you can tell it's very kind of copy and paste. Or we've seen it before where someone's kind of been reaching out to one particular brand, but then they've forgotten to update their template, for example, and actually they mention a different brand or something, and it's like, do you actually really want to work with them, or what's your true intentions here? And I know like it is a really time consuming thing, but you kind of have to accept that, I think sometimes, and you just, again, it's like you do have to put in effort to get something back sometimes. And like sometimes it is a matter of like 9 times out of 10, for every brand you reach out to, it will just be that one that responds, and that can be frustrating. But the more you kind of do it, and things kind of build up over time, and again, like as long as you're kind of applying those very like simple things that we kind of suggested at the start, I think just you got to be patient with it.
Definitely. If you're putting all that time into content, then feel be ready to put in time to this side of it as well. And I guess a final one maybe could be build relationships with agencies, whether that's you're looking for your own talent agency that manage you and bring you sort of deals as itself. But I guess also other than that, us as an influencer agency, we don't manage talent, but we're actively always looking to work with talent.
Definitely. And like some things that have like made us pay a bit more attention, I guess, to certain influencers we've worked with in the past is when, say they've worked with a particular brand, they've been great throughout, like, done things on time and delivered great content. And sometimes maybe they haven't, the results haven't been amazing or whatever, but they've still they've shown an eagerness to want to work with us. So we've had it where people kind of say, I've loved working with you, and I'd just love to understand like what other brands are you working with, and could I maybe put forward like a bit of a proposal to work with some of these brands. And sometimes there just might not be budget for some of those clients, or it's just not the right opportunity, but like you're gonna stick out in our mind when there is kind of a new opportunity with that particular brand. And we'll often be in like calls or meetings with our clients, and we might kind of be suggesting like, oh, there's this particular person we've worked with in the past on a different kind of campaign, but they're really great to kind of work with, and they come with great ideas, and the content they produce is really great, and we also think they might be relevant for you. So kind of things like that, like trying to develop a relationship as well with like us as an agency is definitely kind of worthwhile doing, 100%. Because you never know like what it could lead to essentially.
100%. And I know what we're doing and developing our sort of content creator side of the business as well. I know we're going to soon create, because we get a ton of emails going, hey, I'm an influencer, I'd love to
Yeah.
work with you. But we're going to create a real strong process behind where creators and influencers can sort of sign up to our internal database.
Coming soon, yeah.
Add to that, so we have that on file ready if we feel like they're relevant as well.
Definitely.
So if you're listening to this, make sure to keep your eyes peeled for that, because we'd love to see people sign up to that. And we get a lot already, but it'd be great to have more.
Definitely. Exactly.
But yeah, thank you very much for listening, everyone, and we'll see you very, very soon.